Tilehurst End podcast
by Reading fans for Reading fans.
Hello and welcome to the Tilehurst End podcast extra in association with the Working In paper for today, March the 8th. My name is Olly Allen, your host for today's show. I'm delighted to be joined as ever by the Working In paper's Tom Crocker. Morning Tom, how are you?
Morning Ollie, not too bad, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. I was hoping we might finally have a win to talk about, but Tuesday was not to be.
No, it was looking promising on paper I suppose, but didn't quite pan out as we hoped.
Yeah, and we do indeed only have that one game on Tuesday to look back on, of course, much like most of the Football League. Reading's game with Wolves last weekend was postponed due to the snow, so we do have that one game to look back on, and that is the 1-1 draw with first rockers Bolton. Jaap Stam made 6 changes for this one, with surprise starts for Anthony Okola in goal, and also 17-year-old Tom Holmes making his debut in defence. What was this down to, Tom? Was it injuries? Was it simply sort of Stam sort of just looking for something different after it's not been going too well recently?
I think Stam's just a bit frustrated with what's been going on. Really, he's had enough with certain players. He's made it pretty clear after a number of games that the defensive errors aren't good enough and some players aren't stepping up. And he's made the 6 changes. I think it sounds like quite a few of them would have been made on Saturday as well. So it wasn't just because it was Bolton. Maybe he would have done it away to Wolves as well. And I think he's just lost his patience with a few of the players and just tried to shake it up a bit. I mean, you mentioned obviously Holmes there and Okola, those two stood out, and there was just, when that team sheet came in, there was just confusion really around the press room trying to work out what he was. There usually is anyway when he picks a team, but this one was particularly difficult. Even the press guys at Reading didn't quite know how they were going to line up. So it was difficult to try and work it out, but it's decent for Tom Holmes. Good to come in. Obviously, it's completely out of the blue for him, and only a second game in the Championship for Okola, and I think Bakuna and Richards dropped out completely, and Pella Clement at right back was a bit of a surprise as well. So, there was lots of changes, and whether or not they worked is a different matter really. But I think it was just more down to the fact that he's not particularly happy with the way he'd been playing. There's a couple of injuries as well, but I think that was the main factor.
We'll talk a bit more about Tom Holmes then, and obviously how has his sudden rise to football came about? Because if you think about all the academy graduates, so he's certainly not been a name in the pitch. You think of the likes of Richards and Renomota and Loden, and Tom Holmes has sort of come a bit out of the blue. So was he meant to start on Saturday against Wolves, and how did you think he ended up performing on his debut on Tuesday? Yeah,
he was going to start at Wolves as well, which, like I say, would have been a massive rise from nowhere really for him, live on Sky against the leaders. And obviously he had to wait out a little bit, but it worked out quite well from the end. He got to play up against Adam Lafondra, and he's a lifelong Reading fan. He's had a season ticket for sort of 6 years, and still goes to school as well. He's due back into this morning, I think, actually. So he's had yesterday to recover, but. I think first half was difficult for him. I think the first half an hour, Lafondra basically stuck to him, and just they seemed to target him quite a lot, and he just sort of kept sort of rolling past him, and feared for him a little bit, being truthful. I mean, you think last season when Jaap threw Liam Kelly in at Rotherham and then subbed him off in the first half, you're thinking, is he going to do something similar here, and could massively dent his confidence? But fair play to him, he sort of stuck to his task, and second half improved massively and showed what he's all about really. He spoke to him afterwards, and he said it's quite different to 23's football. He tends to play out from the back and play into midfield there, but the other night it was just a case of just trying to clear his lines most of the time, because there was quite a lot of sort of balls into the box and clearing it out that way. But I think he didn't perform any worse than the other guys, which I think is the sort of main thing to say from it really. Is every chance he'll be involved again on Saturday, I think. And as for his rise, he's, like you say, he's a bit of the right place, right time maybe. Obviously you look at Tyler Blackett and Ilori struggling for form, and a few weeks ago you wouldn't have even seen it coming. You had McShane, and then he brought Tommy Elphick in, and you still had Andresen was probably next in line centre back wise, and they're all injured. So it's just it's been a case of right place, right time. He's come in and taken his chance, and now it's up to him to keep his place, because I don't think the other guys are going to be forcing their way back in quite yet, unless something goes wrong with Moore and Holmes, I'd imagine.
I mean, you mentioned the Laurie and Blackett there. Obviously, they've had a few dodgy games, but obviously they would still be expected to be starting over a 17-year-old. Do you think Stam has sort of lost confidence in them both a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think Blackett hasn't played since he was subbed on and subbed off again. It seems that he's sort of out of the picture really. And you look back for the last few months, really, he's only sort of been picked when out of necessity. I think he's struggling for form, and you'd even look and say that you'd imagine you'd line up at left back. You'd sign Pella Clement at full back ahead of Blackett as well, which. It says it all about how he feels about him at the moment, really. And same with Thiago Laurie. He got his big chance when McShane and Elphick were injured. He's come in and had a good run of games now, so he can't really complain about a lack of opportunity. But just hasn't worked out for him either, sadly. And they're still young enough to turn it around. Of course, centre backs, and they're still both in the squad. There's no reason why they couldn't end up on the pitch on Saturday in some capacity. But as for Holmes, I think he went out to the trip to Spain, with which the much talked about trip to Spain, but it's worked out for him anyway. And he impressed over there, and he's just got his chance in the team now. And it's up to Olly and Blackett to show in training that they're good enough to get back in. But at the moment, like I say, it's, as Yap said, if other guys are performing well, there's no reason to change it. So unless there's a fitness issue, I'd imagine Holmes and Moore will start again on Saturday.
Reading's goal, of course, came from Mo Barrow. Before, unsurprisingly, it was Adam Lafondra, former Royal, of course, got Bolton's equaliser. And it was great to see, of course, both Lafondra and Jem Karachan get excellent receptions from the home crowd, by the way. But in terms of Barrow, that was his 9th goal of the season, making him our top scorer. And how good a signing has he been, Tom? And obviously, I think, how important has he been to the struggling team, and where would Reading be without him, really?
Yeah, that's a scary thought, really. He's been one of the shining lights of the season. I think when he came in, there was a bit of excitement. He'd shown in the Premier League what he could do before, but it was sort of in flashes, really, and it was up to the coaching staff to try and make him perform more consistently. And he's got 9 goals now, which I think is a pretty good return, really, for a struggling side for a winger. And he took his goal really well as well at the weekend, on Tuesday night. Cut him from the left. It looked a difficult angle to score from, but he just slid it in, similar to the Derby game when he broke away down the left and scored as well. So he's in confident form, and like you say, without him, there wouldn't be a huge deal of excitement to that attack, I don't think, because the other guys aren't really performing now. You look at Martin struggled again on Tuesday. Tony Aluko's struggling as well, but Barrett seems to be carrying them through. And he's in confident form. So he's got booked for jumping into the crowd, but I'm sure some fans won't mind that too much. Just he seems happy where he is, and he's happy to be playing every week. And he's the first name on the team sheet at the moment, you'd say. Yeah,
certainly not since Jimmy Cabot. I'd probably say Reading haven't had that exciting a winger, and certainly not one that can provide the goal threat that Barrow can. But on the whole, their Reading's performance was, as usual, pretty disappointing and sort of lacked a lot of impetus and attacking threat in general. Some people even suggested that Bolton probably would have been worthy of the win. I know yourself off air said to me that you think Bolton probably could have taken all 3 points. But and we spoke last week about how big a game this was for Reading, but for them to come out and perform like that is a little bit underwhelming, isn't it? I think they're going to have to perform a lot better than that if they want to stay in this division.
Yeah, it's obviously worrying. You hope that home to a side near them in the league, if they'd picked up all 3 points, they would have pulled quite clear of the bottom 3. Really, it was a big opportunity, and they just struggled right from the start. Again, we've seen it so many times. I'd say, apart from probably the Derby game recently, it's just been a slow start and not been able to. As soon as they let a goal in, it's been a struggle for them. Obviously, they grabbed the lead against their own play. Really, they're just gifting chances at the back. Lafondra should have had a couple. Will Buckley should have scored one before half time. Just gifting them free space in the box, really. And Liam Kelly with a back pass straight to Lafondra as well. It was chaotic defending at times, and as we've seen so often. But they say we're just fortunate, really. Bolton didn't take those chances, and I think if Bolton had come away victorious, I don't think anyone could have really complained. I think Stam said it was probably a fair result, but that sort of says it all, really. Usually they'd say he deserved to win, but to say he deserved a point, he probably feels that was a bit lucky, maybe. I think in terms of chances, second half was pretty much a non-event, which again is disappointing. You look at Reading to try and throw everything at Bolton and try and get the home win, but they say they had one sort of. John Swift had a couple of chances when he came on, but never really troubled the keeper, and Bodvarsson one at the end, which was sort of cleared away from the 6-yard box, but no real chances to speak of. And it was, it's just a disappointing second half, and just another frustrating evening, and really a poor display. And the only positive is everyone else around them lost, so they're 5 points clear of the bottom 3, but there's tricky games to come up, so we'll have to wait and see if it turns out to be a good point or not.
Yeah, looking at the relegation battle, and then as you mentioned, Reading and Bolton were the only teams in the bottom 8 to pick up a point in midweek. As you say, everyone else lost. This makes Reading up to 35 points. They remain at 18th. You've got Sheffield Wednesday, who've played one game more. They sit a place above in 17th with 37 points. Bolton are 19th with 35. Hull are 20th with 33. Barnsley are 21st with 32. And then the bottom 3 is Birmingham with 30, Burton with 29, and Sunderland rock bottom with 20. So it is very, very tight down there. I think obviously any win could see a team rise 2 or 3 places. So Reading only have Wednesday and Sunderland still to play out of those teams. So not too bad a run, but obviously you'd certainly be putting them to beating Sunderland at home, bottom of the league, and perhaps Wednesday, obviously, a trip to Hillsborough. They lost in the FA Cup, so that could be a tricky one. But if we do stay up, Tom, it's certainly looking as though it might well be down to other teams' sort of failures rather than anything we've done ourselves.
Yeah, it's going to go right to the wire, and I think, like you say, a number of teams are going to fall over the line really rather than pulling clear. I think even the teams above Reading are struggling a little bit as well. It's not going well for many of the teams down the bottom. No one can seem to put a run together, which obviously is helping Reading massively. And say one win in 15, and they're still pulling clear of the relegation zone each week. It seems it's pretty crazy, really. But I think obviously Birmingham got Gary Monk in, new manager now. You'd imagine that they'll get a little bit of a bounce out of that, maybe. And yeah, even Sunderland, when they come to the Mad Stad, you wouldn't say that's definitely a win at all. I think they've still got players who on the day can do something, and all the other teams around them can pick up points here and there as well. So I think it's going to go right to the wire. And Reading, I think, are going to be well involved in that. But I think they should just about have enough. They say they are picking up points now rather than defeats. At least they think they've drawn 3 of the last 4 maybe. So that's the only sort of positive, that they are picking up some sort of points. And if they can get a win from somewhere, that'll probably pull them 7 points clear of the bottom 3 maybe. So yeah, it's no one's doing it in style. There's certainly it's a real grind down there, and Reading are having to dig in, and hopefully, like I say, we've made all these changes. Hopefully this is a bit of a new look team, maybe a new look impetus in the side, and on to Saturday, if they can pick up the win there, then things will look a lot different. But yeah, it's not much fun down there for many of those teams at the moment.
Yeah, we will quickly mention the attendance quickly before we move on as well at the Mad Stad 2, which was 8,631 on Tuesday night, following from the 6,769 attendance against Sheffield United last week. And fans are certainly starting to vote with their feet, it seems, and you can't really blame Tuesday night on the cold.
Yeah, no, not at all. It's a worrying trend, and for a game as big as the one on Tuesday night was, then everyone knowing it's a sort of a 6-pointer, if you like, and still two home attendances under 10,000 is a big concern. I'm sure obviously we don't hear from the owners as much as we'd like to, but yeah, I'm sure that they must have noticed that, and noticed that fans are starting to vote with their feet, and even the ones that are coming aren't particularly entertained either. So you'd imagine there'll be a pretty big crowd in on Saturday, just because it's Leeds. They'll bring a lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of home fans will turn up just to see that game, 'cause it's always a good game there usually. And I think the previous weekend against Derby there was a few there, but in terms of the midweek ones, yeah, people just aren't enamoured by the football at the moment, and they're not feeling like they want to pay their money, and that's fair enough for them, and it's a worry for the club, but it's up to them to turn it around on the pitch. Like I say, they had plenty of chances really. I think that obviously that Burton game was sort of the final straw for many. Everyone turned up for the 500th game, and it was just a massive letdown, and some just haven't come back since then, I don't think. And until the team starts winning, or starts at least showing a bit of excitement in the games, I'm not sure people are going to come back anytime soon, and it's just down to the team to turn it around really. But it's a shame, and it's a worry for the club, I think.
It's a 4th home game in a row on Saturday, which obviously unprecedented due to the postponement of the Wolves games. We have got 4 home games in a row in Sheffield. I'd imagine the attendance probably will rise. Obviously, it is a Saturday, and it is Leeds, but whether we'll get perhaps maybe, I think it was about 17,500, 18,000 against Derby. So I think if we can aim for that, but as you mentioned there, that Burton game was certainly obviously it was a near sellout crowd with the tickets for £5, and I think that sort of turned a lot of people off almost instantly with that 2-1 defeat, and it was just dire to watch really. But in terms of news, then it's been a fairly quiet week in terms of the news, and there'll always be murmurs, of course, about Jaap Stam's job when Reading are in this position. But I think we've sort of talked that topic to death over the last couple of weeks. I think we can talk about Jaap Stam's job all we like, but I think it's become quite clear that he's probably safe, at least for now, at least. But I can tell you that the Wolves game has been rearranged for next Tuesday, the 13th of March, and it won't be on TV. I think Sky have chosen Cardiff against Brentford instead. I don't blame them whatsoever. And Omar Richards has been named the Tyler Stearns Player of the Month for February, so congratulations to him. I want to touch briefly on this, Tom. One of the shining lights of this season has certainly been the academy, obviously the likes of Richards and now Tom Holmes as well. Yeah,
massively. I think it's been a disappointing and forgettable season largely, but there's a big, obviously, positive on Tuesday night to see a youngster come through and speak so well after the game as well and perform quite well. Everyone liked to see a Reading fan get out on the pitch. I think it's just a real boost to everyone. And I would say Richards, everyone wants to see him, and sadly I think he's picked up another knock just from sheer weight of games that he's had to play back to back. I think he's just taking his toll on his body a little bit, but I think he's certainly in the first team plans now when he's fit. And let's say we had Liam Kelly last year, and it's just a big thing for the club. It's one of the one of the main things for the club to bring these young guys through, and they're getting a chance. And that's the one thing you have to say about Stam. I think really he does not afraid to throw these guys in. I mean, to throw a 17-year-old centre back in is a massive call when you know your job's pretty much on the line as well. And he's just stuck faith in him. He's not just sticking with the guys he's paid money for. He's willing to give these guys in the academy a chance. And I'd say the same with Kelly and Richards. And it's just good to see all these guys. Sam Smith as well is in the squad, of course. And that's I'd say I think it's 47 graduates now from the academy into the first team, and you'd imagine that figure's just going to keep rising. And that's why I think it's so important to stay in this league, to keep hold of these talented youngsters, because there's so many in the academy who are playing so well. Obviously, they were throwing out the youth cup, but they were going well in that, and they're doing okay in the 23s as well. And there's a lot of guys in there who will feel now they'll see Tom Holmes play and they'll think I'm as good as him, I can get a chance in the team. And that's the thing when a team is struggling, that players are going to get the chance under Stam. And I think there might even be a couple more involved in the next few weeks. I think there's obviously Danny Loader's a lot spoken about him. I think strikers at the moment, there's quite a few strikers about, but in terms of the wingers now, we're short. And there's other guys in there who feel they deserve a shot. And that, also, like I say, that is the big positive, and that'll be the thing when this season's been and gone. Hopefully Reading stay up, and you can look back and say this was the year that those 3 guys or 4 guys broke into the first team squad. So I think that's the positive spin on things. And I think, like I say, Holmes will probably start again at the weekend, and it's his chance to nail down a place now.
It certainly is a warning to the guys in the first team as well. Obviously, if you don't play well enough, then we're going to replace you with some 17, 18-year-old kids, and that's certainly going to give them a bit of a warning, to say the least. Finally, then, of course, we heard the news on Tuesday night that Gareth McCleary has been unfortunately ruled out for the season after the injury he sustained against Sheffield United was confirmed as an ankle break. We spoke a bit about him last week, Tom, but more than anything else, this certainly does leave Reading a little short on the wingers department, doesn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. It's something that we spoke with Yap about on Tuesday night. So you lost Popper and Behrens in the January transfer window, and it sort of sounds like Yap wasn't too keen to lose either of them, really, but I think Behrens wanted to go back to Holland, and they didn't sort of stand in his way. And then Popper, you can say that's Stam's fault really for not picking him as much in the first team. Otherwise, I'm sure he would have stayed around. But he would have been in the team now, you'd imagine, as well. But he's gone off, and that just leaves Barrow and Aluka. And like Stam said, he hasn't really got any other choices at the moment. So that's why you'd look down and you think maybe they'll try and pluck another one out from the youth team. Of Tyler Frost, I think's played there and scored the other night. He's possibly one name, but obviously you want to be careful not to throw too many of these kids all in the same team. But I think Bodvarsson's probably played out on the wing a few times. Clement might have to move out there. It's a bit of a mix and match with so many games coming up. But I think it's obviously Barrow and Aluko at the moment are the 2 that you'd look at on the wings. But you want more options than that, especially from the bench. And these are the guys who you usually bring on to change game wingers. And obviously the one name you'd hope might come back in is Callum Harriott. Played finally half an hour the other night for the 23s, but you'd imagine it's going to be a few weeks until they risk him again after his injury problems. But he's one name that could maybe have a big impact at the end of the season for the final sort of 5 or 6 games maybe. And in terms of that, apart from those guys, they're going to have to reassess it in the summer. Cause like you say, McCleary, he's been out of form as well and struggled for fitness, and now he's completely out for the season. I think he said he tried to sort of jog it off, but didn't quite realise how bad it was at first. He's just desperate to stay on the pitch. But he's out now, and Reading are looking a little short up there, which seems crazy really. When the start of the season we were talking about why are they signing another winger, they got so many wingers, and now you're left with just 2, and one of them in Aluko's out of form as well. It's not the best situation to be in, really.
Yeah, I'd imagine with Harriott they'll probably slowly build up his game time with the under-23s. You mentioned they got half an hour last week. He might get 45 minutes next week, and then gradually build up to 90 minutes. And obviously with him being out for over a year, obviously sort of getting so close to fitness each time and then sort of pulling up, they'll have to take it very, very carefully with him, at least. So speaking of injuries then, how are Reading looking ahead? How are Reading, looking on that front ahead of the Leeds game on Saturday? Obviously we saw Omar Richards injured for the Bolton game.
Yeah, so Omar Richards pulled up, I think, just before the Wolves game with a calf injury. I think that was just, like I say, just to play. I think to play 3 games in a week. He wasn't meant to play against Sheffield United, but had to come on because of that McCleary injury after about 5 minutes, and it's taken its toll now, and he's calf strained, so you'd imagine that'll be a couple of weeks. I think similar for Kermagan, he's still got the calf problem, but I think he is due back in the next couple of games or so. In terms of the other guys, I don't think there's anything new from Tuesday night. Just looking now, I don't think there's anyone.
Bacuna missed out.
Yeah, Bacuna. No, I think he would have been in the squad. I did ask Yap about him actually. I asked about him and Richards, but just listening back, he didn't actually mention anything on Bacuna, so I don't think it's anything serious with him. Obviously, Swift came back on, so you'd imagine he's closing in on starting a game now. But yeah, if you look at the team, I think certainly the back five, I think you'd like to try and keep it as it is, really, rather than chopping and changing it now. I think Yaps.
Do you think Nicola will start again?
It's an interesting one. I think it's to drop Maloney. He had a few sort of shaky moments maybe, but it was a big surprise, really. I think Nicola came in and did okay. Some of his kicking wasn't great, and some of his perhaps didn't quite claim many crosses. But if he's going to give Nicola a chance, just to give him a chance for one game would seem a bit strange. So you'd imagine he'll play again, and then it's just in terms of the fullbacks, you'd think if Bacuna was fit, then he wouldn't have Clement at fullback again, although I think he did okay, to be in fairness to him, but it's not his natural position, it's not quite what you'd want at this stage of the season to have him at fullback. So yeah, I think, like you say, I think we've mentioned all the sort of injuries now. I don't think there's anything. I think they're all sort of fairly close. It's just a case of managing them, because there's quite a lot of games coming up, so there'll probably be 2 or 3 changes as there usually is. But in terms of the anyone coming back, I think, like you say, it's maybe just Kermigan out of that lot, I think.
As for Leeds themselves, then they come into this one on the back of 2 successive 3-0 defeats, actually, to Middlesbrough and then Wolves last night. And they've actually only won one game in their last 13 in all competitions, and that certainly passed me by, and that's nearly as bad as Reading's record. And they sit in 13th now, Leeds, and they definitely aren't shaping up to be the promotion contenders they were shaping up to be at the start of the season. No,
obviously they got the new boss in Paul Heckingbottom, and he's struggling to pick up any sort of momentum at all. And like you say, it's a game that Reading have to look at and think, we're not the only team that's struggling here. Leeds have only got 1 win as well in a similar sort of time, and so they're not going to be any more confident coming down than Reading are at the moment. So you got to look at that as a really winnable game now. Even though obviously Leeds are a few places above them in the table, they haven't picked up many points in recent weeks. Like you say, just 1 win in sort of 13, and Reading 1 win in 15. So it's probably got a draw written all over it maybe, but this is certainly one that you look at. Leeds are struggling, and I think the new boss is sort of looking at shaping a squad for next season now. So they're sort of playing for places, really, maybe rather than playing for points. I think they're too far off the playoffs now. I think they threw a young goalie in the other night who might play again at the weekend. So I think he's just looking at his squad as well. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, because last season when they came, of course, both sides were really fighting for promotion. It was a great game. Reading won it 1-0, and Reading obviously won up at Ellen Road earlier this season as well. So they've got some good memories of playing Leeds, and all the fans always want to beat Leeds, and they'll bring a few fans down as well, the away fans. So it's going to be an interesting game, and 2 sides woefully out of form. Maybe that will produce something special.
Do you think Reading can take some optimism from that 1-0 win at Ellen Road? Obviously, that was sort of quite unexpected. I think Leeds were sort of going quite well in a top 6, and Reading were struggling. But obviously, Leeds have still got the likes of Pierre-Michel Lasogga, Samuel Saiz, Pablo Hernandez. But certainly that 1-0 win can certainly give Reading some sort of optimism. Yeah,
I think we said the same about the Derby game a couple of weeks ago, and that turned out sort of similarly. They obviously played well again against them, and they didn't lose to Derby all season. And if you can do the same against Leeds, play 2 games and come away without defeat, I think that's a pretty good record. And yeah, they'll take some confidence from that, but like I say, it's a new manager now, so I think he's changed things a little bit with how they set up defensively. And yeah, so then you have to look at whether they can find any new ways of trying to break them down. But yeah, if you beat your team, it's going to give you confidence. And like you say, that last season they beat them as well, so they got good recent memories against Leeds, and they're desperate for any points anywhere really at the moment, Reading. And if they can win a home game against Leeds, suddenly things will look a lot different in the table. So a few fans might come back in again, and it might start to look like they're pushing in the right direction. But if they lose to a team that's only won 1 in 13 games, and it's going to look it's worrying again, and they'll probably be closer than 5 points to the relegation zone. So it's a really big game on Saturday, I think.
Yeah, we've still got that record of not winning on Saturday at the Manchester at 3 p.m. since last April against Wigan. So hopefully we won't go a full year before that is corrected. All things considered, then, Tom, how do you see this one shaping up, and what's your prediction for the prediction league?
I think I'm going to try and go for a positive one for once and go for a 2-1 win. I think, like I say, the 2 teams so out of form, and Reading are probably a little bit more desperate for the points at the moment than Leeds, and hopefully that shines through. And I've just forgotten about that Saturday record actually, so I need to sort that out pretty sharpish. So hopefully 2-1 this Saturday to Reading I'm going to go for.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go for 1-1 personally. I think Leeds, as we mentioned there, they've still got some quality players on their side, but certainly as you mentioned there, Reading certainly need the points a lot more. So hopefully they can sort of really go for it. But I'm not holding my breath. I think that we all predicted wins for Reading on Tuesday against Bolton, and that turned out horrifically. So. But I'm sure we can look forward to coverage of the game and many other things on the working in paper in the next few days.
Yep, so we'll be at the game on Saturday. We've got an interview with Tom Holmes as well. He's still goes to local Wokingham school, so there's an interview with him going up, and the column's back from Simeon this week as well from Tyler End. He's sort of looking at the academy players that we might see in the next few weeks, and hopefully they're shining, like you mentioned earlier, a little bit of positive on a forgettable season so far. So yeah, that'll be going up in the next couple of days, and on wokinhampaper.co.uk and up on my Twitter as well at Tom J Crocker.
And we will have our usual match report and player ratings, of course, for those two games over on the Tyler End as well. So stay tuned to both the Working in Paper and the Tyler End for that. Tom, thank you very much for joining me as ever this week.
Thanks, Ollie.
No worries at all. And the two of us will be back next week to look back on the Leeds game and that rearranged fixture up at Wolves on Tuesday before looking ahead to visit to Carrow Road, where of course Reading got beat 7-1 last season, which isn't exactly what you need in the relegation battle, but we shall cross that bridge when we come to it though. But until then, thank you very much for listening to today's show, and come on you Ours.
Get social with the boys
Find them on Twitter
at the Tilehurst End
and facebook.com/the Tilehurst End.